Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, to today's podcast, which I have aptly renamed the Jaron Scott Podcast, where I have appropriately my first guest, my good friend, fellow content creator of Sobriety University, and my roommate for the last month, Mr. Joel Henry. How are you doing today,
Hello.
Joel?
Good. Thanks for having me, brother. Honored to be here for the first pod. It's awesome.
Yeah, so Joel and I were deliberating a little bit in terms of, hey, what should the first podcast episode be? And then I realized, okay, well, the channel rebrand is Gringo Guides. I want to start putting more of myself out there. And Joel's been living with me for the last 30 days, actually a little more than a month now. And me personally, I haven't had a roommate in God knows how many years. So there was a bit of an acculturation process for me, but more so the acculturation process for Joel. Guys that have been following me for a while, I've been on and off in Mexico for the last 20 years almost. So a lot of this stuff isn't really that new to me anymore. However, I figured that we have Joel literally living a couple feet away from my bedroom with a fresh set of new eyes and perspective as far as Mexico. So Joel, let's start off by walking me through the process. How'd you get to Mexico in the first place? How'd you find me? How'd our relationship develop? And what decided to make you pull the plug and essentially start a new life abroad for the indefinite time being?
Great question, man. Yeah. So I've lived in the US my whole life, Wisconsin in specific. And if any of you have been on the self-development journey, you start to realize that there's certain cultures and places of the world that you don't quite belong anymore because you've changed so much on the inside. And so I really found that like I wasn't fitting in with the Madison crowd. I'm from the Madison, Wisconsin, went to school there. And it was really fun when I was having a bunch of fun partying and doing, fun stuff. But once I got on a different path, I realized, okay, like I don't want to have kids right now. I don't really care about school anymore. So where do I really fit in? All I can really do is work. And my soul is just kind of getting crushed day by day. And so this spring, I met somebody through a support group meeting, and he had been like an international traveler. He's like, yo, man, you should really go to Warsaw, Poland. I think you'd really like it. It's a lot more like in line with your values, like more traditional values, that kind of thing. And so I hopped on a plane, sold all my stuff and went. And it was an amazing experience. And I would say Jaron and I, we kind of got to know each other a little more while I was there. There was a big time difference, but we still, we did podcasts together and stuff. And how I met Jaron, kind of rewinding a little bit more, is I booked him for a coaching call.
Right? I just book me for a coaching call, guys, and you can be my roommate, and I will show you all the finer things Mexico City has to offer, which we will get into that.
It was the best coaching call I've ever booked. So he will
get laid hand over fist less than a year later.
So I booked you actually, Jaron, to find out like some money tips, like how I can get a better job, advance my career a bit. And I invited you on the podcast. And if you guys go to my channel, you can see one of the first, I think you were the first guest I've ever had on my podcast. So this is, I mean, how beautiful.
It's only appropriate. Yeah,
that's perfect. Appropriate, man. Appropriate, actually.
True, bro. True, bro. Let's steal that from
Thanks.
You. Yep.
Hell yeah. All yours. And so we just slowly did content over time. It developed naturally, which is really good, which is, I think, how a good relationship should evolve, not just kind of forced and pushed or anything. And then I ended up having to come back to the US from Warsaw because I ran out of money. I was irresponsible. I decided to go to a bachelor party, and I dropped basically a month's worth of living in Warsaw in a weekend in freaking Latvia, which is a European country. It's a whole country, and it's very small, but it's in euros. So it's about 4 times more expensive than it is in Poland. So I ended up coming back to the US. And then Jaron and I started working together a lot more. We started doing more content together. We started doing podcasts almost every weekend. And I just remember at one point, you were just like, yeah, dude, I just, you should come down sometime. It'd be great to, I think you'd really like it. And I'm like, well, we're doing podcasts every day. What do you think about just, maybe coming down to live with you a little bit for a few months or something? We can get some work done, and we can, kind of explore the city and stuff. And you're like, for sure, come on down. And like a month later, I moved out of where I was staying and just came down here, and it's been an amazing journey ever since.
Yeah, that's the whole reason I got a place with that second bedroom there. At one point, I was considering making it into a studio because it's a smaller space and it's more acoustically sound. But some of the private groups I've been over the years, a lot of the guys, they get places with second or third bedrooms. And the guys just kind of, especially those living the digital nomad or passport bros type lifestyle, they just kind of get on the road and then stay at each other's crash pads, which I thought, okay, that's a really cool thing. And over the previous year before you came down, I've had a handful of guys come in and out, but I figured, like you said, we were working enough together. It's like, all right, we can just room up for a bit and put that second space to good use, because I haven't been playing guitar or singing or recording as much as I should on the music front. So it actually worked out quite nicely there. So you made the decision, pull the plug, sell all your stuff, went to Poland, came back to the US, decided to come down here. But walk us through that process. What was going through your head? Because I know there's some times you're texting me like, oh, bro, I can't believe I'm doing this. And again, from my perspective, I'm like, dude, it's just Mexico. Like I first moved down here when I was 18 years old or whatever it was, 19 years old.
That was exactly it. I was like, it was very surreal. It's I never thought I would ever come to Mexico. I was very acculturated into the U.S. culture, you could say. So I had a lot of preconceived notions of what Mexico is, and I also was like a little hesitant too, because if you ever make a big change in your life, there's always that resistance, that part that's like it's called Stockholm syndrome, where where you're going or where you are is better than where you were. But there's a part of you that holds on, and it's like, man, maybe you shouldn't go. You're safe here. You're comfortable. But
The safe world theory. Yeah.
Safe world theory. Yep. And as people have grown and advancing, we always want to be growing and advancing. And so my soul knew it was the right move to come down. I have a really good mentor as well. And he really encouraged me. He's like, dude, you're going to have a blast. Like, this is perfect for you and your development, living with Jaron. You've got it. Obviously, we'll dive into this a little later, but the dating aspect, and you have a ton of dating. So I was really excited to get to learn firsthand, basically a live, coaching session almost every day.
Yeah.
It's been like
real time without any breaks.
Yeah, 24/7. And speaking of, you have a course coming up really soon here too, which is going to be great. And I got the privilege of getting to do some work on it, and it's a great course, guys. Like I got to put what Jaron was teaching in more of like a structured format in my own head. And then I was able to go out in the world and practice it. And I saw immediate results, like and Jaron saw it too, just immediate results. And so
you beat me the first couple of weeks. So I was focused on other stuff, but then I got back up to pace.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was maybe a little beginner's luck there, but
right.
Had to happen. And so yeah, coming down, I was to be honest, I was, how do I say, I didn't have high hopes of how dating would go here in Mexico. I kind of thought Poland was the place for me. I thought, that's where I got to get back to, or maybe Korea, because I am Korean, adopted. So I've never been there before, besides when I was born. And I'm like, yeah, I was never really like into Mexican women, or, obviously because of movies and stuff, it doesn't really portray them in the best light, especially in the US.
No, they have the yellow filter. So guys, that's Mexico right there. It's not yellow in the sky like you see in all the movies. It's blue skies, just like California.
Just pure blue skies. Yep. Nice people. And so, yeah, get on that plane. I was just ready to go, man. I was excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you came down. I think I had a flight that day too. So you had a little stint at the airport by yourself. And I was surprised when I first met you. One, it's really weird to meet someone in person with whom you've interacted so much with online. And so that was so when I first met you, Asian stereotype here, I'm like, well, you're a lot taller than I expected. And then I do want to get more into the Asian angle, because that's what we absolutely titled this, and we got some keyword ranking there. So starting off, you get to Mexico City, come to the airport. I know when I first came down when I was 19, I was on the plane at one point, and you could look down below, and you kind of know when you're not in the U.S. anymore. The cities aren't as grid and structured, and the roads aren't as wide, and things are just a little kind of loosey-goosey. So I was looking down like, oh no, we're over Mexico now. And I remember when I was a 19-year-old kid, in my head, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And then the minute I got off the plane on the ground, that excitement came. I'm like, oh yeah, this is an adventure. I was literally stepping into a new world. When I first moved down here the first time, it was my first time out of the country. And it wasn't me coming down for spring break or doing tourist stuff. I came down here to live. So I remember those same thoughts of elatement and emotion, but kind of anxiety too. Like, what the hell am I doing here? We're going through my head. Was that something similar to what you experienced? Or walk us through maybe your first 24 hours here, what your initial impressions were.
Yeah, that same excitement, elation, just like in awe, just like that. Those eyes are big. You're looking around. You're like, I'm surrounded by Mexican people. what is going on? I would see them a couple times at the gym once in a while, but it was mostly, it was just amazing. And I had been in the US for so long. well, up to that point, not so long. It was like a month and a half, but it felt like forever. So I hadn't done any day game, any, a cold approach or anything like that. So I just hit the ground running. I just started like going up
At the airport.
at the airport. Yep. It was just like, yes, we're back. And if you ever do take breaks, like I was really worried I was going to lose everything I learned from like being in Warsaw and all the work I'd done in dating. And it was right there and even stronger because I got that break and I was able to kind of integrate everything I learned. And it was just like, dude, beautiful girls everywhere. I was just like, dude, let's go. This is what's up.
So how, I know when you first came to the airport and you're starting to pick up some Spanish as you go. And then the more you learn, the easier it is to learn more. It's kind of one of those things. Once you get momentum going, it's more of kind of an exponential effect. But first day on the ground in the airport, how'd the lack of language skills affect you? I can say, as a bystander, as a witness, that the first couple of weeks were a little slow and go for you. But once you got your framework down and your dating structure, then it was just kind of like me, just volume through the door. So maybe comment on that, how the lack of language skills played into that, how you overcame that, and then how you started going about structuring your dating. Guys, if you once you get into my course, I break them down in structures and sequences. So there's certain stages in the dating process, and then with each stage, there's sub stages, and then there's structures and sequences and subsequences within there. And then once you build your own personalized blueprint, you kind of just execute and you can run volume if you want. So maybe walk the audience through that process for you.
Sure. So language, I taken a little Spanish course before it. It's like an app called Pimsleur. Really good, actually. So I learned a couple basic things, like enough to get by, to introduce myself. One I remembered was Estás de Mexicana. Es usted Mexicana, which means you are Mexican, because something I learned with day game, especially the London day game model, is you want to make inferences about the girl. I used to always just go up and ask questions like, hey, what's your name?
That's hilarious. You're in Mexico. Are you Mexican?
And what I actually found is that it works well for me. I basically use Google Translate. Most of the dates, the cold approaches I've gone on are all on Google Translate, all on my phone. And it actually has worked out really well for a few reasons. One is I can't mess it up by talking. Like when I know words, I get bored of my own like language, and it's just like the spark isn't there. Two, when I'm texting over Google Translate, there's pauses, there's silence, and in those moments of silence, we're just there present with each other, and like she can feel my masculine energy, I can feel her feminine energy, and it's really nice. And it actually I would just say you got to experience it to see it for yourself. It's quite peaceful, actually. And there's not that pressure to say something, because to say something, you got to open your phone, text it. The third thing I found too is that since so many people are on their phones now, it actually added a bit of comfort, I think, on her end, because it's like, instead of like having to have a conversation, it's like, oh, I'm just texting, right? That's essentially what we're doing. So it's worked out. It's worked out quite well. And over time, like you've been teaching me a little Mexican, a little Spanish, Spanish.
They do have their own twist on the language. The haircutting lady today, we go to the same barber, and she asked me, she's like, you don't use a lot of slang, you don't swear a lot, are you rude? I'm like, well, no, I don't really do that in English either. I do it for comedic effect, and I love dipping into the dark humor, but no, in my day-to-day interactions, I keep it pretty standard.
Yeah, you don't swear a lot, which is nice. You do. You
on this podcast, I do. It's funny how the camera goes on and then boom, F-bomb. Oh, we're not at 5 minutes yet. But,
right.
Yeah, I'm kind of cleaning it up.
Yeah. I want to say too, going back to the airport, when I met you too, it was I had the same reaction, because we had known each other basically for over a year. And in my eyes, because you're such a big dude, I thought, like, in my head, like I was always like kind of looking up to you, like looking up at you, right? And
you weren't as tall as I thought. Is that what you're thinking? I'm about as wide as I am tall.
And like we're meeting like eye to eye, and I'm like, oh, nice.
Yeah. I was like, what? A tall Asian? Oh, okay, that's interesting, because there is somewhat of an Asian population here, but they're usually straight from Asia. So I used to have a theory when I lived down here before that you can be Asian American, but I think it's from the GMOs, the antibiotics in your meats, like just all of the abundance of food that people, when I first came down here, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could always tell who was Mexican from Mexican or Mexican American. So Mexican Americans were just a bit bigger, a bit broader, had denser bones. I don't know what it was, but I've traveled to quite a few countries in the world, and I've noticed that you can usually tell who the dash American ones are and the ones that are 100% local. So for you, I'm like,
Okay.
damn, dude, you're tall and you're pretty big. And we'll get into this too. You've been on a bulk for the last month. So we'll get into the fitness side of things. But I remember when I first came down here, we didn't have Google yet or the internet or smartphones. So I had a little yellow English to Spanish translating dictionary that I carry in my pocket, and I'm espera thing, and I pull it out and then write it down. And I remember it's really cool watching you go through the acculturation process, because for me, it's the novelty is worn off so long ago. Mexico's always felt like home for me, but I did go through that process initially. However, it was almost 20 years ago. So I remember watching you. When I watch you pull out the Google Translate app, it's almost kind of endearing to the girls. And like you said, it is a bit disarming. I remember immediately going back to my first experience, the little yellow translation book, going through, and the girls would kind of giggle like, oh, that's cute. That's so adorable. And then girls that I've known for a while, I had one over yesterday. She was a girlfriend of mine back in college, way back in the day. She mentions now, she's like, oh, you talk just like a Mexican now. She's like, oh, you don't even like really seem that foreign anymore. You're so acculturated. But back in the day, she'd tell me, oh, I thought it was so cute when you came up to me on the beach and you could barely speak and you seemed like a lost puppy. And then girls I knew from university would tell me, like, yeah, your Spanish is getting good now, but you're kind of an asshole now that you're good. I kind of liked you better when you could barely speak the language. And I think it is disarming, because you'll notice as you continue developing your language skills, you'll get to a point where like, all right, I speak about the level of a 3-year-old. Oh, I can speak like a 5-year-old now. And then, ooh, I'm a 12-year-old. 12-year-olds are kind of assholes. I'm like, oh, I can talk like a teenager. And for me, within a certain time frame, I went to university down here. So within about the first year or so, I got to the point where like, okay, I can speak at an academic level, at a college level. And I've had multiple people that I've known through my entire stint on and off through Mexico where they tell me, I actually liked you better when you barely spoke Spanish. Or people that are bilingual. The minute I switch to English, they're like, wow, you're not as nice in English. I'm like, well, yeah, I have a good grasp of the language and I'm just get her done, you know, that type of thing.
Totally. And just like you, I have a sequence. So I have like probably a bunch of things I say when I meet a girl. And it's nice because when I do it on Google Translate, it takes like a few minutes to get through that whole sequence. But the times I've approached in English, I get through that sequence in like 25 seconds. And I'm just like, well, what the fuck do I talk about? You know what I mean? So having that time has been really helpful.
I'm actually learning from you to not be as direct, because although that does work sometimes, that girl from the party on Sunday, literally, I think she was kind of looking at me. I was looking at her. I was like, damn, she looks good. And I did the whole, hey, I like what I see. I want to see more of it. It's like, okay, yeah. We started conversing, went and got her, you know, I had a bottle. So went and got a drink from the table, brought it back to her. And then at one point we're in the pool, and she had a couple girlfriends and then a guy friend there too. And the guy friend's like, hey, you know, exchange information. They're kind of instigating things. Then beso. I'm like, all right, guess I'm going to get a pool makeout. But at one point I went to give her my contact info, and I took her phone and punched it in. And I went to send a message to myself on Instagram. I got the Instagram and WhatsApp. If you guys get my course, you'll know the difference between those, why it's important to get both and what one means over the other, or what both means. But so I went to give her my WhatsApp, whatever, sent the message to myself, hey, sexy, you know, some little fire flame or like the eggplant emoji. I always do that. Went on to Instagram, followed myself from her phone, went to message myself. And I was like, hey, you blocked me. Like we had already been talking before. And like kind of held it up, and like a couple of the guys in the group, oh, bloqueado. So then that made a whole thing. So she ended up taking her phone and doing like, hey, I had this guy blocked before, but I thought he was fake, but now he's not fake. And here he is in the flesh. And like, oh my God, I'm so excited, and posted that, you know, and tagged me or whatever. That did really well for me. A lot of girls got jealous on that, but that also did really well in terms of raising the SMV. Guys, again, get into my course. We'll talk about, there's a whole module dedicated to Instagram, how you play that game for social purposes and why it's so important to do these types of things. And then eventually got to the point where it's like, all right, you know, I've been seeing her quite a bit over these last couple of weeks, but bringing it back to the main point, that I find that I'm almost too direct at times. It worked in that instance, but a lot of times it's off-putting because, like you said, I'm bigger than most people here. So these teeny tiny little petite Mexican girls like come up like, hey, what's up, Jared? And like, hey, how's it going? Do you live in the neighborhood? What are you doing? What do you got going on? Cool, give me your number. I like what I see. I want to see more of it. And they're kind of like, whoa, dude. It's almost like, and again, I take this back to when I was in university, when I was first starting off down here, to where like, oh, you're disarming. It's kind of like you're a little kid. You're innocent. You're safe. You're learning to just walk. You still have your training wheels on in this new culture. I use the term navigating the culture or the country or the environment. You're still in that initial process. So it's not as risky for them. And I think you kind of alluded to that too. Has that been your experience? And if so, feel free to share it, or if not, feel free to share, you know, any other inferences that you may have made from those that first process, because you're still in your first 30 days. You know, you're still pretty new, but you're definitely acculturating quickly.
We are fresh off the boat, pun intended.
You heard it from him, not me. I don't know if that's a thing white people can say. I'm not. I don't live in the U.S. anymore, so I'm not up to date on what things white people can and can't say. I almost said it earlier. I'm like, should I hold that one back?
Oh, we're getting canceled for sure.
Oh, there we go. No,
and then we can
and demonetized.
And demonetized. Man, we're past 20 minutes, so
all right, cool. Yep, let her rip.
Yeah, let her rip. Yeah, well, you know, I think that, like, one, I'm not like a very intimidating person to begin with. I have a very kind of boyish look to me, which Jaren's
lack
been
of
helping
facial
me with.
hair.
Yep. I can't get it, bro. I literally can't get it. If I get it, it looks like I'm like it looks gross. It's like bad.
Yeah. Patchy. Yeah, guys, if you're patchy, just get rid of it.
It's not even patchy. It's just like it only grows here, here, and here. So it looks like I'm like a pedophile. Let's just say it. It looks like it's like that kind of look, that gross, like nasty kind of. You got to trim your hair, dude.
Yeah, you don't want the creepy vibe. We have a whole module in my course about that, guys, at Gringo Guides. It's launching next week.
You got to use your facial features to your advantage.
Cultivating your look, yeah.
Cultivating your look, yep. I can't grow hair here either. So, so yeah, coming full circle. Yeah, I got a very boyish look. Have that kind of. Jaren's been helping me getting a better physique, so I think that's helping a bit too. And I'm actually finding that now I'm getting a little bigger. That the whole like innocent kind of vibe doesn't really work anymore because they now see me as like a bigger, more masculine person, which is nice. But I'm having to adjust from there too. What I found though is because if you come on too direct, it kind of ruins that mystery. Like the girls wanted like be like, who the hell is this guy? What is his deal?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't want to know where he's from. I just want to remember that this good looking guy came up to me, said what's up, you know, was smooth, was calm, was confident, and swept me off my feet. And that's not something I used to do. I used to be like, kind of just, yo, what's up? Like, I'm so excited to meet you. Like, that's like the little boyish like vibe that's not as attractive, I think. They want maybe the boyish like innocence, like the safety, but not the mannerisms in a sense. And so, yeah, definitely taking it slow has been very helpful. And I can tell too, when I go too fast, when I rush the texting sequence in Google Translate, it does kind of even ruin it a little bit. So I still have to work on taking it slow, breathing deeply. And yeah, I think it's a great point, whether you're doing Google Translate game or just regular human talking, really trying to slow it down and be present, be that mystery. Be that girl that's just going to go home and be like, I need to find out more about this guy or else I'm going to go crazy.
I mentioned that in my course too. You want to have that effect, like, who the F is this guy? And it doesn't really matter the energy. It could be like, oh, this guy's intriguing. Who the F's this guy? Like, oh, this guy's cute. Who the F's this guy? Or it could be like, this guy's an asshole. This guy's a complete off the wall douchebag. Who the F is this guy? It doesn't matter. But when going to that mystery comment, you want to create that mystique in their head, almost in terms of, I have to find out more. Like when you see a really good preview for a movie, I'm dying to watch it. What is that? Now you don't necessarily want to go through and list all the highlights from the get-go and show the show the sizzle reel, but you want to create that space. You want to create that mystique, and that's what I said. I've been learning from you because I'm my game sequence, guys, and I outlined my personal game sequence in the course here. I'm really direct. For me, it's for the longest time, the last few years, it's been filter them out as fast as possible. I want a girl who's F yes, DTF, down to come over, hang out, hook up, and then start building that sequence in the follow-up stage. So like, okay, now we're seeing each other once a week. Maybe if I vibe her and she vibes me 2 to 3 times a week, that'll go into more like longer-term relationship territory. I run an MLTR, which is a multiple long-term relationship type model, but I have all these sequences in my head. So for me, sometimes it's not that I'm excited to meet her. I've met plenty of girls, but it's more so I'm looking to run you through the entire sequence. So sometimes in the initial stages of the conversation, it's like, I want to disqualify you as fast as possible. And I might be losing some good options because of that. So I've learned, even from viewing your experience in your first initial weeks and your official month now here, that, okay, maybe if I scale back or slow it down a bit, although that, like you said, you're dropping the boyish thing. So you'll notice whenever you make any changes, guys, that you start to attract different types of girls. And there are things where I still do more direct, like the girl from the pool the other day. I think I literally said something to her along the lines of like, hey, I like what I see, and I know you like what you see, because she was checking me out too. Like we kind of locked eyes. I'm like, all right, like this girl likes what she sees, and I like what I see. So I said something along the lines, just complete douchebag, arrogant lines, something along the lines of, hey, look around. There's no other guys for you. And, take a look at the girls too. I don't really have any options either. I was like, we look good together. We should probably just spend some more time together. And then there's a photographer. Timing was perfect. I didn't see him there, but the photographer at that event is one of my good buddies. So he was right there, like just turn around and pose for the photographer. Just like, if you ever remember Mad TV, they used to do the Abercrombie skits. And I was like, hey, Dutch, hey, Cougar, pose. So it was perfect timing for one of those. So that's my usual game. I'm usually very direct, but I've learned to kind of back off a bit, allow that space, and then slow the cadence kind of through you. And I think it's a good balancing act. You do want to be direct to an extent. You don't want to give too much space, because otherwise you're like, does this guy know what he's doing? Does he not like me? What's going on? A lot of times there's time constraints. This is a major city. People are on the move. So it's about finding that balance. And guys, I get into this in my course in terms of sequencing, pacing, and cadence at any point in the interaction with a girl.
I appreciate you saying that, and vice versa. I think we work really well together. We have very complementary energies, even though we do have very similar energies at the same time. And so vice versa, you've taught me to be more direct. That was something that I was lacking. And so absolutely, like, sometimes it's okay to just be like, hey, like, I dig you, right? Like, let's get
I like what
moving.
I see. I want to see more of it. I've been using that line a lot lately, and it works.
I'm actually gonna use that tonight. So hell yeah. Coaching in action. And it's really important too, I think, to know your marketplace, know where you're best at in game. Like, that's something that Darren and I found that we differ, is that you're really good on Tinder. And I think I've gotten 3 matches since I've been here, literally 3 matches. No cap. I do terrible on Tinder. Maybe that'd change if I go to like Asia or something, but just Tinder is not my game. I just don't have that, I think, that look, that like, I want to fudge look. So that's why I do really well with day game and cold approach, because I get to show like a little bit of my like energy. I get to have that masculine presence in the moment, in real time, and it just works great for me. So I find too, like, being a little softer is better when I'm approaching a girl coming home from work in the middle of a street. Like, because it's true. It's like, where'd you meet her? Well, I met her in the streets. Like, that's not a great like line to tell your family, but it's the truth. And so if I come on too direct, it almost comes off like, I'm just like a dude in the street trying to just like, do creepy shit, right? So can't be doing that. But when you're at a pool party, when there's, when the vibe is like pure sexuality, basically, then it's totally appropriate to be a little more like flirtatious.
It's just all hot people, then it's invite only. So the first one that I went to, there's one this Sunday, actually, we should probably go, but
let's go.
The first one I went to, didn't really know anyone, came with a small group of friends, and then I've been to like 8 or 9 of them now, to where every time you go, you start seeing kind of the same social circle. So you expand your social circle. So the reason I go to those pool parties is more for the social game side of things. But every time I go to one of those damn things, I get like 2 to 3 new lays the following week. And there's something about having that in-person presence where they can feel your vibe. It is good energy. I'm friends with the DJs. I tip the bartender well. We know all the door people. We've been a couple times now. So people are used to us being there. We are a part of that scene and becoming more of an integral part of that scene the more we go. So I'm definitely developing more of the social game aspect on my side. The course that I'm launching focuses more on just presenting your best self out there, doing more of the online game. I am really, really good at the Tinder and just online in general game, but that's because I'm a digital marketer by trade. So it might behoove us at some point to whip out your Tinder app. I know I have a couple female friends coming to town here in a couple weeks. I think we're going to book a photo shoot together, so you can grab some of your girls. We'll go out and do that too. That does make a world of difference in terms of setting up your digital inbound marketing funnel correctly. However, I did want to touch on the topic, and it is kind of in the title. I think that there is preferential treatment too, based on certain races or ethnicities, nationalities, and so on. That's not saying it's a bad thing necessarily being one over the other, but certain girls have different preferences. So I think when you came down, I told you that a lot of girls are here like in the anime, the K-pop, the J-pop, that kind of type thing. If they're like Twitch girls or into any of those cosplay type things, they love Asian guys. That's becoming bigger and bigger in Mexico. When I was down here before, it was the emo and goth thing. They're a few years behind the US, but it was really weird to me seeing like emo, like Mexican versions of emo chicks, because that was the thing when I was in high school and I was in college here. No really longer a thing in the US, but a lot of the girls that are into that type of culture, they will be drawn to Asian guys. However, remember that places like Tinder, they're merely platforms that facilitate connections, or they open communication channels for you. So if, for example, here we have here, D says, I think both methods work well. Whether someone is fully direct or creating more balance depends on the dating market that one might want to get into, to be fair. So treat these as markets. So on Tinder, there's a digital dating marketplace. If the user base is not that is aligned with what your digital product is, Joel, your appearance, your image, or whatever. And we get into all this in one of the initial modules of my course of creating your digital brand presence on the dating apps, which then translates to Instagram, then to text, then to, setting the date, then to meeting up, executing the date, and actually closing the date is how it's broken down. But you have to realize that it's not necessarily you. It might not necessarily be an Asian preference thing. It's just that user base on that specific app. Whereas when we go out in these social type circles, it is more of it's a higher end crowd. They're usually a little higher educated. They have more international type experience, and they're just curious to meet people. So that facilitates opening that line of communication. When they come up to you, you have a good vibe. You're joyous, you're energetic, you're funny, you have charisma. So that line of communication is open. You're in person, and nothing is quite like in person, so they can actually feel your presence in the flesh. And I think that's what helps you out a lot more. But I'd be curious to comment on what's your experience? Is there an Asian handicap? Because I know there's a lot of guys in the US. I have a lot of Asian clients that say, oh, I can't do this because I'm Asian. And I've done A/B testing experiments on Tinder before, where I've built my douchebag version of a profile, all shirtless photos, drop it in the most liberal cities in the US, and then like a high-end, high-class Asian guy. And it's about right. It's about, he gets 3 matches per my couple hundred. So it's at the point, okay, well, maybe online is not for you. We should reconfigure or reassess that dating strategy for you. Now, that's not saying that, guys, if you're Asian and you're watching, that you shouldn't get the course. It will definitely work for you. We can definitely get that figured out for you. Joel and I haven't done that yet because you're more of a day game type guy, and I've always been online. But I've found that I have a nice balance now personally since you've come down between day game, online, social game, and the night game. So I'd be curious to get you more into the online game and see what we can't do for you there. And you do have online game to a degree, because even if you get a number in real life, it will go online. She will follow your Instagram, and you will be texting at some point. So no matter, we're in the modern world, no matter where you do the lead sourcing, it will be digitally mediated communication at some point.
Yes, absolutely. And right on, like in the course, like you talk about using Instagram, and I always use Instagram. That's when I get a number. I don't get a number, I get an Instagram, because I can show my profile, and I just like communicating over it. They can see your stories and all that. And there's a whole module dedicated to Instagram. And it gave me some tips too on how to make it better. So I like redid my stories. I have more like highlights and stuff like that. So even if you don't do online game, like as much as Jaren does, you can learn a ton of stuff, especially like once you get off the app and into real person, because there's a lot of modules on going on the actual date, how to escalate, how to be physical, how not to say too much, how to text properly. And then in the bedroom too. Let's just say I've been using my pinky a little more.
There we go. Guys behind the paywall, you have to join the community for that. Not safe for public consumption.
Not safe, but safe when you're in the bedroom. Promise you.
Yep.
It'll be a blast. And what was the original question again? What has
I kind of asked loaded questions. Yeah. Is there an Asian handicap down here? Have you noticed that? I personally haven't seen it. You're running volume. You're running about as much volume as I am, and very quickly. You've actually surprised me.
I appreciate that, man. I would say, I believe it's both. It's a mindset for sure. So you have to, if you're an Asian guy, you have to overcome that mindset to a degree and find the areas of the world where you're attractive. Now, there's pros and cons to every race. And one of our cons is that, we're not going to be as hot of a commodity in a lot of areas, especially very white cultural areas. I did terrible in the US. Like, I had results, but I had to work really hard for them. And it's, at first, like, I had never felt angry. I always felt a little sad. And now I've accepted it. And that's a big reason I came here too. Cause I'm like, okay, like, as a man, I have to change my trajectory of life. I can't wait for life to come to me. And that means making this move to somewhere where I have a higher chance of being more, of being of higher value. And I found that firsthand being here. It's like, I'm getting looks. Like when I go up to a girl and do cold approach, I get a look that I've longed for my whole life. That's just like, that just attraction, basically. Like
The way they
women
look
are
at you in the eyes, it's intoxicating, isn't it? You see them staring at you, you're like, ooh, like you can't not approach them. It's like
like,
you already
oh,
know you already know she likes you. You can't lose at that point. And it's that look, that deep gaze they give you.
yes, it's like they're looking into your soul.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. That's why I've always wanted the US too. It was very hard to get. And even when I would get dates, there's a lot too about, status. And when I think what I found is when a lot of people, they don't want to bring certain people home, which is kind of, it's what it is. It's racist a bit, but it's true. Like, would they rather bring home the college educated 6'2" white male that came from a really rich family, or the Korean guy? And it's like, you can't really fight it. It's like, yeah, I understand. You'd rather have the former.
Although in a lot of countries I've noticed, because I think we kind of dip around with like the upper echelon of chicks, but it's more like your upper middle class, maybe your lower highest class. But usually the most elite type girls, they usually prefer the local elite guys. So if you're a Mexican actress or model and you're all over Televisa, then you're going to date the Mexican actor or model or politician or the politician's kids. And then I've found even in the US too, like I kind of get those guys as leftovers. The girls like, okay, that they've had their taste in that elite level, but they can't quite hang there. They're not quite at that level. And that's just by virtue of being a foreigner. I've been off and on down here for 20 years. I navigate the culture well. I'm legal. I speak Spanish well, but I will never be fully Mexican. And that's one thing that I always say is cool about the US. A lot of people gripe about the US, but you can walk over a border, jump on a boat, land in an airplane, and then day one say, hey, you know what? I'm American. Like, because American's a mindset. Like, I'm American. Like, hell yeah, brother, you are. I've got buddies that have lived down here for longer than they've not lived here, and they have families here, and they're like, yeah, bro, I'm from Italy. Like, I will never be seen as Mexican. I'll always be Italian. But there is that exotic factor there. And we have a comment here. I think in Mexico, if you're tall and not dark, it's all good. I think that definitely helps. There is a racial bias here. I actually wrote my thesis on that. I can put that in the description, but don't use that as a handicap. I've got a handful of black buddies here who do very, very well. However, they usually attract the different types of girls that I do. Although I've got a good buddy, and when he first reached out to me, he saw me on a podcast about a year ago. He reached out. He's like, bro, we have like 6 girls that we follow in common. He's like, have you been with these? I'm like, bro, all of them. He's like, yeah, me too. I'm like, all right, we're Eskimo buddies. So, but same thing. He's a he's a black guy, but he's a good looking guy. He's tall. He's charming. He has a good vibe to him. He's a good person. And a lot of times the girls like, hey, they don't really care. And you'll notice too, in a lot of countries, there's girls that like foreigners. So they don't really care what nationality or what race you are. It's just exciting. It's something different. It's something exotic to them. Even when I'm in my home country, when I go to like New York or Miami or Los Angeles, I usually don't hook up with white girls. It's usually girls that live in that city that are from other countries. So I can give them a taste of that American experience. But me being acculturated and having traveled all over the world and lived in multiple countries too, it's kind of like we're in our own little international type bubble, although I'm in my home countries. Has that been your experience to a degree, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually, yes. In the US, the majority of the women I did date were either Mexican, Black, Irish, Asian. So it maybe a mix, a little like half Chinese, half white. So yeah, I found that the girls that were attracted to me too were foreign as well. And I think, like, again, if you're an Asian guy out there and you're struggling with that, maybe low self-esteem, I would say, don't let that hold you back. Accept it, and then you have to learn the skills too. Like, coming here, like, if I didn't have any ability or skills, it wouldn't have worked anyway.
You can't change your race. You're not going to be not Asian. Like, let me just close my eyes and cross my fingers and wish that, like, it's not going to happen. I wish I were taller. Sorry, bro, not going to happen. If you wish you were more, leaner, more muscular, in better shape, you can do that. And we'll segue into that here in a second. But there's certain things you just can't change about yourself. So you have to integrate those, embody those, and then showcase the positives of those traits.
Yeah. And in fact, if I close my eyes, I'm going to even look more Asian. So that's going to completely backfire. So not a good idea.
Oh, the anime girls here will love it.
Yeah, I actually had a
first Tinder photo.
just all
the
anime,
line eye.
all AI.
Although anime's funny. They give them huge eyes. Like, their eyes are huge in anime. I'm like,
They're white eyes. They give them white eyes. They really do.
That's hilarious.
I actually saw a girl on Sunday, and she was really into anime. So we came back here and watched anime. And I don't ever watch anime. I never have. And so, but I like sat through it, and I think there was that attraction level because she got her Asian fantasy come true. So yeah, how do I say this? There's going to be pros and cons wherever you go. And that's what I've learned. And as long as I can focus on what I can control and the skills I do have, I've seen results. And so, yeah, definitely don't give up if you're an Asian guy. Find where you're of value. That's where I would just say, find where you're of value. There is a place in the world where people will be head over heels for your personality, for your type, for your energy. And it may take a little while for you to find it, but it's worth the journey. And for me, it's been a long journey. It's been very hard. There's been a lot of nights where I've felt absolutely empty and hopeless. And like I got screwed. I got the short end of the stick, but I just got up the next day and just kept going and kept going and kept going. And finally I'm in a place of abundance, and it's absolutely surreal. It's absolutely surreal.
You touched on an interesting topic. We kind of skirted past it, so I want to give it a little light here. But you mentioned the fantasy. So I mentioned in my course, a lot of girls have fantasy buckets. And in terms of, things to talk about on the first date, if you're vibing well, if the chemistry is going, if you're building attraction correctly, then you can start touching on that. So the surface level thing you mentioned earlier, yeah, the girls like the tall, dark, handsome guys. Although I don't know why they use the term tall, dark, handsome, because that means white. But I'm actually not that dark, but whatever. But they like that. I mean, they have their cultural preferences wherever you are in the world, and that changes vastly. I've been to countries where I think like, all right, I'm going to be a hot commodity here, and girls just don't like American guys. We're bigger than everyone else, broader shoulder, denser bones, little more arrogant, little more direct, and girls just don't dig that. You get on a plane, you go to another country, 2-3 hour flight, you get off, and all of a sudden girls are swooning over you. So there is that. Pick a market that works best for you, but usually on the surface level, there are preferences, and that changes by market. However, once you start digging deeper and pulling apart those layers of the onion and getting deeper into those conversational threads, a lot of girls do have different fantasies for different types of guys. So like you said, you know how to correctly tap into that Asian fantasy. That's not a bucket I can access in the psyche of the girl. A lot of girls have the gringo fantasy, the white guy fantasy, like the big muscular guy fantasy. So I kind of tap into that. For my black buddies down here, a lot of these girls have black guy fantasies. And as I mentioned, there are a couple of girls. We don't share girls. So once we figure out that happened, my buddies and I, we get rid of them entirely. But there's been times where like, okay, like, hey, bro, like pull out your conversation with this girl. And I was with that girl, a year before you were, vice versa. And they're completely different text sequences. They're completely different game methods. They're completely different blueprints we run. And we've come to the conclusion that like in the psyche of her sexuality, a lot of times like, hey, on her fuck it list, there's a black guy. Bam, check. On the fuck it list, there's a big jacked white guy. Check. So a lot of times girls do have that. And if you know how to structure your game sequence as well, you can start to unravel those layers of her and then penetrate literally that part of her psyche and then her if you do it correctly.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, we definitely have different text sequences, and I've tried some of your text sequences on the girls I've met. Too direct for you, right? Yep, too direct. Yep. So I've had to go scale back to let's grab a coffee, and I'm actually finding out that now I have to go even a little more, like find that middle ground between that and your area, because coffee can be a little too boring. So
you can run those dates too long and kill the attraction too. She'll be waiting for you to pull, but like they're not necessarily forthcoming when that time is. And with the experience, you'll figure out when that pull point occurs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I came to Mexico with the desire to meet a girlfriend, and now I'm seeing that I don't really want that right now. So when I say let's grab a coffee, that's really not my intention to have a long-term relationship. So it's not as it's a little disingenuous, and it's kind of boring. Like you don't get excitement thinking about going to grab a coffee.
How'd you come about that conclusion? I don't know how forthcoming you want me to be publicly, but there's been some milestones in your game development where it's usually I'm like cooking dinner, something, you come out to the kitchen like, hey, like I just had a girl just use me for casual sex. I'm like, congratulations. So like if you want to tell that story, or the other day there's a girl that's pulling back a bit. It's like, what do I do? And I said, just leave her on red. Like don't deal with her. And a couple of days later, I think she saw you post a story with other girls or something like that. A couple of days later, she comes back and then she gave you an offer to sweeten the pot. I was like, see how this works? Like now that there's competition. So I think maybe address the abundance mindset, address some of those milestones that you've hit, but how you've shifted from, because a lot of guys, to be honest, when they reach out to me for coaching or for, the course, they'll say, I want a girlfriend or I want a long-term relationship, but to get a wife, you can't sit her down and like, all right, I'm looking for a wife. Here's a checklist. Maybe in some parts of the world you can. But in most parts, no. Modern women, that doesn't work. You still have to run them through the process. You have to build that attraction. You have to escalate. You have to close the deal sooner than later. You have to get her in your sexual frame, which then gets her into your just overall frame. Then you have to pace the relationship, not give too much, but not give too little either. And you have to find that balance there. So maybe walk people through that mindset shift for you.
Yes, absolutely. So definitely wanted that long-term relationship, and I still do. Like, I won't lie, like, it's definitely something I'd like to have long term, but I knew in the back of my head and in my heart that I have to go through a process of kind of being a playboy for a bit, because I need to learn those skills. I need to learn how to keep women attracted. I need to learn how not to get one-nightitis. All that stuff is going to really help me find that girl that really is somebody that I can spend a lot of time with, because you've seen it so many times, right? And probably if you're watching this channel and come to Jaren, I guarantee you've watched some of those videos about, you know, the guy that falls in love with the first woman that touches him, and then she realized that she doesn't like her at all, and then it's just like a disaster, right? And so thankfully, like they say, a smart man learns from people's successes, a wise person learns from people's mistakes. And I have been trying to embody as much wisdom as I can. And so I see where people have gotten into that thing. And so it was tough, because I want the long-term relationship, but now that I'm having abundance here, I see that I can get it, but I can actually enjoy the process of just casually dating. And I came to you the other day in the kitchen, I never thought I would be someone that could just have a casual relationship. It was like, it has to be all in, like we love each other, or there's no hope, or whatever. It's just like I'm betraying God, because I grew up Catholic, so a lot of Catholic guilt. And then finally, like, this girl's just like, yeah, I just want to see you and have fun, and I like you and I'm attracted to you, and we don't have to ever take it further. And I'm just like, holy shit, like, she said that to me. My mind was just blown.
I think that morning you were talking to me, she's like, oh, I should send her. I think you did. You sent her a text like, hey, you know, I like seeing you, but I'm not looking for anything serious. And I was like, bro, don't do that. Like, what are you doing? Like, she just comes over, hangs out, and hooks up whenever you text her. That's ideally what you want. Now, if you do decide further down the line that you want something more serious, then there's ways you can pace that interaction and start planting those seeds and setting those expectations for it to evolve into it. But a lot of guys come hot out the gate like, looking for a girlfriend. Oh, she's the 304. She's not wife material. I was like, dude, just hang out and have fun. And then just let things kind of develop naturally. Now, if you do that with multiple girls, then the cream starts to kind of rise to the top. And then you start building those deeper relationships. You start giving more priority to those relationships that you want to nurture. And the ones that come through, you're like, all right, yeah, it was a good lay, but I don't really see that going anywhere. Like, we don't really vibe that well. Yep, we're done in the sack, but now the girl's hanging out with me and I don't really like hanging out with her. Then you can just go ahead and cut that option.
Yes. And guys, like, you gotta like learn from the chicks, because you gotta kind of become a little 304 yourself, to be honest. If you really want to have the cream rise to the top.
The Fuckboy Chronicles, that's the working title of my first book.
That's so good. That should be your course, bro.
There we go. That's the course name. All right, yeah. A tale of trials and titillations. There we go. Trademark. Someone trademark that real quick.
I got it. Don't take it. Don't take it. I got it. Coming back to some
comments real quick. D, traveling all over the world and seeing women in a multitude of different countries opens the eyes of what you need to do as a man in order to reach your dating goals, short-term and long-term. I think that's a fantastic way to sum that up. For most Mexican women are attracted to masculine physical traits rather than race. That's what I've seen too, because being a foreigner down here, again, the U.S. is a really weird place when it comes to race. Like, oh, there's white guys and black guys and this guy. But once you come outside of the U.S., like, oh, you're just American. Doesn't matter if you're white or black or Asian or whatever. We are all foreigners together. We are all minorities in whatever country you decide to go to. So we do kind of band together. And then once you're not constantly peppered with that shit in the media, like, I don't watch American media. I don't hang out with American people outside of my social circle. That stuff just disappears in your head. So at the end of the day, really, like you said, you're embodying more masculine traits. We'll get into the physique transformation you're currently undergoing, but women can just feel that energy. And I think that a lot of guys hold themselves back because they insert not even the race thing, race, ethnicity, height, social status, all that stuff. But really, if you just have good core masculine energy that you can project to her, she can feel that. And that just builds desire inside of her. And then one more comment.
I wanted to touch on that comment too. Back to QB, Yep, QB passport. That's what I found as well. Like with traditional countries, that's what they look for. It's not the money, it's not all that. It's who the person embodies. And so, like in Poland, there was a lot of that. Like that's why I had some success there because it could just be masculine. I dated like a Ukrainian girl for most of the time, and she was, I mean, they're like bred for femininity. Like she was like cooking me meals every night, doing my laundry, and I was like, dude, this is fantastic. And so countries like that, you're right, absolutely. QB flexing is that they really care about the masculinity over the westernized version of masculinity, which is how much money do you have? Do you have a degree? Do you use pronouns? That's not masculinity, bro.
Oh
That's
God,
just like,
yeah.
it's just stupid. I go by it actually. Call me it.
Yeah, a boy named it. I think there's a book called that about child abuse. It was really good. Sad read. Don't read that; it'll kill your vibe. But read it if you want a good read. But if you want high vibes, don't read it. Terrible book recommendation. But you've seen probably most countries you've been to, and it always blows my mind as an American that you'll go abroad, and even here, like at that pool party, you'll see really hot girls with just like disgusting looking guys. Like, all right, well, it's not the looks. Maybe it's the status to a degree. Not necessarily that, but the guy just embodies a certain energy that feminine energy is attracted to or responds to.
Yeah, at the party actually, there's a smoking girl with she's in a bikini the whole time, just running around. I'm just like, you tease. But the guy she was with was, I think, shorter than her. He wasn't super fit. He had kind of like a dad bod body. But when I actually like was around him and like I was hearing him speak, he spoke with like that authority. He spoke with that confidence. He was very grounded. I'm like, no wonder she likes him because he's a freaking man. Now maybe he could get your course and get ripped a bit, but hey, he's a happy guy and he's got one of the hottest girls at the party. So it's like good for him, right?
Yeah, let's see. Next comment. So if someone is considering moving to Mexico City, bringing a car is a no-go. Also thoughts on the possible new president. So in terms of the car, at some point, I think I do want a car just to take little day trips to like the Pueblos Mágicos that are around here. Now, where I live, I'm in a pretty nice neighborhood. Everything I need is accessible. And when I first moved here, I considered getting a car at some point. I priced out what it would cost in terms of, I'd probably buy a cash car, but in terms of insurance and gas and then like parking fees or all that stuff, it was really flush to me just taking an Uber. So when I leave my neighborhood, it's usually to go out and like do social type stuff. So if I'm drinking a bit or if I just want to relax and not be stuck in traffic, I don't mind taking an Uber. Uber costs me maybe $100, $150, $200 a month max. That's also me Ubering my girls to and from the house. So I'll meet girls every now and then. They're like, oh, you're going to come get me? Do I really want to, like, Mexico City traffic's horrible. Do I really want to sit in traffic for hours at a time each way when I can just pay $5 to $10 for an Uber to bring her to and from my place? So for me, that was a decision. However, I like driving. I've always had sports cars. I miss having a car. There are days, like Sundays, usually traffic's pretty clear here. There are days where I wake up on a Sunday and I just want to go for a drive. So at some point I'm thinking, yeah, I'll probably get a car for that purpose. But for day-to-day commuting, everything I need is in my neighborhood. So pay the extra money, get a good neighborhood, pick a spot that's close by. On the apps here, you can literally order anything when we transition into your bulking phase, like supplements, pharmaceuticals, whatever bulking type agents. Based on how much you want to reveal there, you can order everything on the apps. Things that you think are like illegal in the US, you can just pop on an app and it's at your house in 10 minutes. So for me, I had to sit down and actually deliberate and actually do some number crunching there. And it just didn't make sense for me at the time to have a car for commuting purposes. However, I would like to take little day trips every now and then. And I do like going for spirited drives every now and then. Thoughts on the new president? I believe that's Claudia Sheinbaum. She's the president of Mexico City. I don't follow Mexican politics too much, so I'd have to look more into that, start talking to people around here and get back to you. The current president, AMLO, I know that he's from the more kind of like socialist-leaning party down here. I expected him to do a terrible job, but he's doing more just kind of no job at all, which I don't, regardless of party affiliations, that's kind of what you want in a president. It's not like Biden in the US where he's intentionally doing a bad job, or his handlers, he's not really there. But in the US, again, I don't like to touch on politics too much because it just pisses me off. But in the US, you couldn't be making more worse decisions on any policy front. Biden is intentionally bad. He's intentionally destroying the country. Whereas AMLO down here, we currently have 3 socialist leaders in the North American economic trading bloc, Canada, US, and Mexico, between Trudeau, Biden, and AMLO right now. But I'd rather just have a non-effective president, someone who just doesn't really do anything at all, as opposed to someone who's just absolutely intentionally a terrible politician, which is what I expected for AMLO. So I'll have to get back to you on the Shine Bomb. I believe she's a leading candidate right now, but I haven't really followed Mexican politics in a while, and I don't even really follow politics in my own country either.
Awesome. Well, before we dive into the bulk thing, I think.
QB. Let's do a stream here at some point, because I think we cover a lot of the same topics, and we'll have a great conversation. Sobriety University, just sub to your channel. Yeah, sub to Joel's channel. You'll be seeing a lot more collaborations. We live together, so hey, what do I do for content? Like, oh, let's do a short, and we're doing some satire every now and then too. Don't need a car in Mexico City for the most part, anywhere in Mexico. Yeah, same thing. When I lived in San Diego, I did have a little Porsche Boxster, so I'd like to take that down to Baja and just rip that thing open on the Mexican one, that private highway there. But there's no traffic on there. The tolls are a couple bucks, every checkpoint or so. So I enjoyed that. But storing a sports car in Mexico, keeping it at a house in Mexico, I thought no. Even if I got a car here, it might be an older little roadster or something, but nothing too high of value, because there's always the theft issue, there's a security issue, and so on. You are in a different country, but you have to assess your needs when it comes to the transportation category of your life and determine what's best for you. And let's see. Cool. Thanks, Darren and Joel. Just concerned the new president will ruin good thing you guys have in Mexico. Yeah, I'll have to look more into that. I know this year Mexico's due for an election in 2024, and so is the US. So that could shift things on its head very quickly. And guys that have lived abroad before, definitely do look into the politics before you're going, and probably keep up to date on it. I need to take my own advice and start doing that, because even in the US, we've seen in the last couple of election cycles to where politics can shift on a dime in a lot of these countries. So you don't want to get caught somewhere that was once safe, and then overnight it is very much not safe anymore.
Oh, yikes. Yeah. I'm not a big politics guy. Like, I haven't watched it in like over 7 years. So I just ignore it, and I feel peace every night. So, but some people love it, man. And I definitely hear that. Before we dive into the fitness thing, I did want to touch one last point on a book I've been reading, actually, that's very helpful in identifying the kinds of people you're dating and why you're dating them. And this has been where so much of my like aha moments have come from. And when I run out in the kitchen, I'm like, dude, Jared, I just figured this out about like my whole childhood. Wow. It basically talks about that the people we choose to date often embody characteristics we either liked about our parents or that we wish they had. And so I found with this one girl that was like, she's been pulling back. She's been kind of unpleasant to be around, let's just say. But maybe she'll come around. She didn't get much sleep. But I was like, I had one-itis for her like crazy. And I had so many talks with Jaren, like, dude, why do I have one-itis? It's coming back. And the reason why is because she had characteristics of my mom that I really liked of my mom. And then she was a bit of a part that my mom wasn't, that I wish she was. So I was really like, there was like a part of me that just like longed for it. And when she came around, I was just like, oh, this is it. This is finally how I'm going to find peace and happiness in my existence, because she's going to heal that wounded child. And she also healed the part of my teenage self, because in high school, I had one girlfriend, and she was pretty like Christian or whatever. So we didn't get to have much fun in that sense. And so this girl's been the complete opposite. So I fell in love with almost the story more than the human being, her. And what Jaren and I have kind of been talking about too, is it's like, it was a bit of a selfish motive, but it's like, it's not her that I wanted. It was how I felt. Yep. And now that I've seen that, I'm like, okay, I've seen this pattern. It's within her, or no, it's not within her. It's within me. And she reminds me of that. I actually, after all that, I don't really like the person that much. And that's like, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
We mentioned that I had a stewardess this summer who super cool girl, got along well, gelled well. We had good chemistry. And then at one point I started developing one-nights, and I haven't had that in years. And at the time I was like, okay, why am I feeling this way? I know better than to do this. But later, you and I, Joel, talked the other day about this. I was sharing my story too. Like, it still happens to the best of us every now and then. You have to catch it and nip that shit in the bud real quickly. Otherwise, you're going to start to unravel that relationship. You'll bring that energy into it, and then she'll feel it and she'll pull away, which will cause you to have more one-nights. And then if you're dating multiple girls, they'll start to feel you're off too. So if you get one-nights for one, I've noticed that you'll lose other rotation girls too. So you start to kind of unravel. You do have to catch that stuff. But for me, the core thing was, we were talking about taking trips, just like, oh, there's a Mexico City to the Tokyo open route, Mexico City to Rome. And then I go here and like, oh, let's go to Argentina. So we started planning out travel. So for me, it had nothing to do with the girl. It happened to do with my a desire to travel and backpack the way I did in college. Well, I'm an adult now. I have responsibilities. I have obligations. I'm in a different chapter in my life. So yes, I would like to travel more, but I can't really do it the way I did in college, to where I just lived out of a duffel bag. And I think it was more of, had nothing to do with the girl. It was more of that desire within myself to relive that part of my life, or to at least have the option to do that again. So I identified that. Now I'm setting things in place in my own personal life, because you can only control yourself, to where that desire entirely went away, which is funny, because at some point, all girls always come back. At some point, that girl will reach back out, and then that part of me is taken care of.
Yes. And oh yeah, so such a good story. And too, like the novelty wears off. So this girl that I got the one eyes for, like she had the best body I've ever been with. And it was like my perfect fantasy. But on time number 6, where we saw each other, I'm like, okay, it is another body, right? Like, and then that kind of is like, okay, once that sexual charge wears off, do I actually like the person? And I do when she's like sweet and feminine. When she's kind of being not so much. It's like, yeah, I'm not. There's other girls that are feminine and are sweet and are going to be kind and I'm going to have a great time with. So I'd rather focus on them than the one that just has the hot body, right?
It's like that new hot chick in my rotation. At first, I'm like, oh, bro, I got to be careful. There's a lot of chemistry there, and I kind of like her. And then today she lives in the neighborhood, so we went to the gym and worked out this morning. And then coming back, and I was like, hey, I knew we had a tight, like we both had pretty tight mornings, so we could just fit in a gym session. I was like, hey, cleaning lady's here, and like, I don't know, like if you want to do it, but like if you have a minute, you can come upstairs and do whatever. If not, another day. And it was kind of whatever. And she's like, oh, the cleaning lady's at my house too, and I don't like, we don't like to leave our cleaning ladies unattended for long. So she's like, hey, I'll hit you up later tonight or maybe this weekend. But at that point in my head, like the initial first couple of times we hung out, it's like, oh my God, she's so hot, she's so sexy. Like my other girls are hot too, but this is the novelty factor. But now the novelty factor is starting to wear off. Like, all right, I like hanging out with this chick, and it was fun working out with her. And she's pretty new in the gym, and I've been in there for a bit, so I'm teaching her some new stuff, and it's fun to train together. And we're like some of the more of the better looking people in the gym. So like in my head, it's like, all right, like I have one of the more developed physiques in the gym. As a female, she has one of the more developed physiques. So it just looks right for us to be together. But it's at the point like, all right, I enjoy hanging out with this girl, but like I don't have to see her all the time. So like that new P phase is starting to wear off. I'm like, all right, yeah, you just kind of see her for who she is. You did mention the other day that one of the first girls you brought into your rotation, you started kind of developing a sense of one-nightish, and you talked with me, and then at some point you started backing off, and then she came to you like, and it's funny, guys, I always say, like, when a girl gives you distance, meet or exceed her distance. And then just wait, forget about it, bring new girls in the rotation. That's why abundance is so key. Not abundance mindset, but actual abundance is key. So you kind of backed off a bit, and then she came back strong, not only filling in that void that she initially created, but adding more, I like to call it like a trump card or a wild card, like, hey, I'm into this thing. I don't know if I want to share that information, but I'm into this. And another kitchen conversation, like, oh my God, I never thought I'd have a girl bring it up, because I talk about this in the course, that this thing that usually as a guy, you have to kind of plant those seeds and bring that up. But my new girl too, the other day, started talking about fantasies. It's like, hey, I like, I'll just say what it is. Hey, I like having threesomes, or I like having other girls, or bringing other girls in the bedroom. I like watching you with other girls. I'm like, because for me to be my main girl, that is a requirement, and it has been for the last 3 years now. So like, all right, like now she's sweetening the pot with that as I'm getting to know her, and it seems like your girl did that too. Just, oh hey, by the way, I'm into this. You're like, bro.
I was so excited. Yeah, when I told you, I've been saying that as a mantra for so long, ever since like when I started living here. Right, meet her distance with more distance, which is really hard when you like them. But yeah, we had the conversation, and to be honest though, like her energy that day was very not pleasant. That I brought it up, just kind of try to spice in the moment. But I'm like, I don't even want to like really do it with her, because her energy, she's being so negative, and like she had like 2 hours of sleep, so I'll give her that. But it was just more like I was like bored. I was like, yeah, I'll see what she says. And yeah, she was interested. And I'm not reaching out to her at all until she reaches out to me again, because the behavior wasn't pleasant. And with abundance, you realize that like you can't spend time on people that aren't going to fill your cup. And so I set that strong boundary. But yeah, if she comes around and she's up for it, great. But otherwise, and I think the point you're trying to drive at, from what I'm hearing, is that when you come with abundance, they're going to behave in a way to keep you, that maybe may push some of those boundaries, and be you might have some fun experiences.
Yeah, it's like when the girls post me on Instagram and tag me. I get drama from a lot of my other girls, but I know they're not going anywhere. Like that kind of spices things up a bit. And in the bedroom, they bring like a new little trick, or they start saying things like, hey, you know what? I'd be interested in hooking up with that girl. Like, hey, I'd be interested. Hey, I have a friend and she's really cute. Like, do you want me to present you to her? So then they start to sweeten the pot when they realize like, okay, oh shit, there's competition. Like there is girl game too. But guys, if you've never experienced girl game, that's likely because you don't have the abundance. When the girl knows like, oh man, that my man's in demand and I don't want to lose him. It's that social proof factor. She'll start sweetening the pot and she'll start showing up in ways that you didn't think were possible before. So I'm glad you're at least getting to experience that. And then, like you said, if you don't want to move forward with it, that's fine. Like that's a true abundance, not mindset. That's actual abundance to where you get to choose what that part of your life looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, my first menage a trois, I wanted to be with just people I absolutely vibe with, women I vibe with. So let's be frank there.
Yeah,
so many dudes I vibe with. Yeah, no. But speaking of hot bodies, I think this would be a great
let's
time
transition
to get in the gains, baby.
Yeah, I'm curious to. Well, I already know your experience. I'm kind of coaching you through it, but I'm curious. Same kind of questions. What were your expectations coming down in that regards to your life? I know when you first came. Yeah, I got to turn the light on too. I know when you first came down, you're on a very restrictive diet, like no sugar and no carbs and no this and that. You're like, but I want to bulk. I'm like, all right, that's gonna be a little difficult. So there's some mindset shifts there, and then there's some parts of the diet and training protocol. You can divulge as much detail as you want to, or hold back as much as you want to, but some mindset shifts you had to go through. And then I think today you said you weighed in, you're up like 15 pounds, like 7 kilos or something crazy like that. In a little more than a month.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So walk people through that. Yeah. Walk people through that process for you.
Absolutely. So I've been on keto for over 3 years now. I haven't touched sugar in over 3 years. I quit it. It was one of the addictions I had. And so I quit that. And then by default, I basically had to go keto because I stopped eating rice. I stopped eating pasta because that all boosts blood sugar. And so basically by default, I was keto. And I loved it. Like I had so much mental clarity. I had crazy amounts of endurance. Like I could go exercise for hours, but not weights, but more like cardio and stuff. And I always had and my physique was as good as it could be for being in keto. And I've been working out since I was like 14 years old. So a long time, but coming here, I'm like, yeah, dude, I want to bulk with Jaron. Like in my mind, I had a little body dysmorphia thinking I was bigger than I was. And then, I just see pictures. I'd be next to Jaron and he's absolutely like jacked. And I was just like, oh, okay, maybe I could gain a little muscle here. And I thought I could still do it on keto. And what Jaron helped me see is like, yeah, you can't do that. You're gonna have to. Yeah, I just don't think it's possible, and I actually don't believe it's possible either. So started eating carbs again, and then what he suggested was to get on a little bit of TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy. And I've never done it before. I've never even thought about doing it. I was like, steroids, blah 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 blah. Not gonna touch that. And then after sitting with Jared, I'm like, okay, he's been doing this for a long time. He's not crazy. he's a sane human being. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. And what he really helped me see is that if you do it in a healthy dose and you do it properly with quality material, it can yield some great benefits. So funny enough, the sober coach is injecting myself with a testosterone shot every couple times a week. And I saw instant benefits for sure, especially eating carbs again. Like I have a lot more energy. I'm a lot more grounded. And I saw it particularly when I was going on dates. Like the first date I went on, I wasn't doing the testosterone. I was very, very anxious, very high energy. And as soon as I started taking the tea, I just started to calm down a bit. Like stuff stopped being such a big deal. And I always identified as someone that has more feminine energy than masculine. And I think that could have been one, I was on keto and not eating, grounding foods as much. And two, that maybe I had low T levels. I will say it's probably a good idea to get your blood levels checked. I didn't. I just said full send because I was excited and have a bit of that addictive all-in personality. So, hey, we're kicking today. So I think things have been going well. And I found, dude.
But we're running at the higher end of the therapeutic range. So once you want to scale back into maintenance mode, then we'll do that. But it's not a full cycle. Full cycle is usually 500 milligrams of test a week. You're way below that. You're at the high end of the medical TRT range. But yeah, eventually, if you want to continue using the exogenous source of testosterone, then that's when you do the bloods and you dial it in for maintenance mode. And then I bumped mine up a bit too, which I always thought that, oh my God, like I do get bloated. Like I hold a lot of mass on my specific frame or my body type. So I am holding a bit more water than I'd like, but I'm not getting any of the side effects, because when you increase your testosterone, you also increase your estrogen through a process called aromatization.
Okay.
And I'm not getting any of those symptoms. I'm like, well, maybe because I usually run my TRT dose on the lower end of the range because I don't want the water retention. But I'm realizing, oh, it is kind of nice to be a little more filled out, a little fuller. I put 5-6 kilos on the scale immediately.
Yeah.
I'm still going through the process with you, but I'm doing more of a lean bulk / recomps. Like, okay, put the scale on the weight very, very quickly. I get very big, very fast if I train that way. And then now the last few weeks, I'm holding my weight and then tightening up more. So now I'm actually looking forward. I think we're not even halfway through the bulk cycle yet, but eventually I'm looking forward to scaling back to my normal TRT dose, but I might run it a bit higher than I did before. Find that nice middle ground between the fullness and then the energy. The sense of well-being is a huge testosterone benefit no one talks about. You just feel good all the damn time.
Yeah, you really do.
And then so really it's about dialing it in. And then when you go through a TRT practitioner, yeah, they'll check your blood levels, but they also base it a lot on symptoms too. And you'll have your own range you'll ideally want to fall into.
Cool. Well, that's super reassuring. And guys, once again, why it's great to reach out to guys like Jaren, because they'll help you, really see it from a healthy perspective. And as you know, I'm like all about health with the sobriety stuff. So knowing that I could do this in a healthy way and was just very reassuring. And it's been great. Like we go to the gym, we can go for hours, just so much energy. Seeing the results immediately on the scale, up 15 pounds, which is crazy. So it's only going to go higher. My shirts are all way too tight. I wear smalls because it's all I could wear.
My shirts are too tight too now. So because I've actually I put on some weight. Yeah. So I'm just passing you my shirts, which they're shirts, when I run really lean, like 10% body fat, they're shirts that fit me well, but I'm going to put on a few pounds of muscle and keep it on. So those shirts won't fit me anymore. So you'll grow into them. But where are you at scale weight now in pounds?
171.
Up from
156.
Oh Lord, yeah, you put on 15 pounds. Dude, that's a nice bulk for you. So at that pace, you should end at about 180, 185, and then you're not putting on a lot of body fat. You do have the bloat because you're running like the higher end of that medical range of testosterone. But again, that's the stuff you can dial in at the end.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, dude, I'm excited to get ripped with you and go on that phase too. And I'll say too, it's so nice eating carbs again, man. Like being able to go to a restaurant. I couldn't go to restaurants. And if I did, I was that guy that was like, can I get a steak with no butter, no, just olive oil, salt and pepper? They'd be like, sure. And it would be a terrible meal because I'd be like, I could just make this at home for half the cost. But every night I'm going out, I'm going to like different bakeries, or I'm getting ice cream, and I'm still staying off the sugar except for one day a week. So I'm going to like places where they have sugar-free stuff. So I'm still following that guideline, but just to have carbs again, man. Yeah. I'm so grateful that you encouraged me to do this. So much better.
You've learned how to eat too. You're eating all the damn time. Like I think you eat way more calories than I do. But for me, like I don't need to. I ran in a surplus, I think, for the first few weeks, and then once I hit like, okay, eventually I want this to be my walking around weight at 10% body fat. So I'm doing more of a recomp thing. But yeah, I'm back on my one meal a day. But I see you coming out here and getting cereal and big bowl of pasta sitting on the counter. Yeah. And it's like, all right, I'm getting a few carbs at night. They're not the cleanest carbs. I've been buying peanut butter M&Ms every night. But like, all right, that'll give me a couple little carbs here and there. The tortillas from the tacos.
Yeah. You guys just in the first week, it was so funny. Like we would just eat all the time. by like noon, we were just like, dude, I'm so full.
It's like a whole box of Rice Krispies with stevia and protein.
Yep. Seriously,
milk. Yep, every day. But you're learning how to eat well, which to build that initial mass, you do have to eat. You have to eat all the damn time. But once your body gets used to it and you can dial it in and your body figures out how to hold it, then it's just maintenance mode. Maintenance mode's easy.
Hell yeah. Well, we love maintenance. Yeah. I've been doing maintenance for 3 years, and it's nice only eating one meal a day. I miss fasting. That is something I do miss because you don't have to think about food at all. You just go throughout your day and then get to gorge in one meal and go to bed.
I get the mental clarity too. You've noticed these last few days I've been on since I've gone back to intermittent fasting, whereas when I was doing carbs with you, I get the ups and downs throughout the day.
Yeah, the mood spikes for sure. Yeah, and I think coming full circle is like I haven't had a roommate either since like 2014, maybe. No, 2015, 2016. And I've been living on my own for so long, and it's fun. So like if you have an opportunity to get in with a group of guys and just, kick it, and it's been awesome. Like just to chill here and have a buddy.
I've been joking around. I think I just re-upped the lease at this place, but when this one runs out, maybe I'll get a big place. I did this in college. We got a place with like 8 bedrooms in it, and it was under my name. So foreigners would just come in and out of town, and we just, hey, I've got a room for you. And that was probably the funnest period of my life. So I'm thinking of doing that again, but calling it again. I'm a more seasoned adult male now, so call it like an incubator, like guys that want to come down and work, do business together. Your laptop road warriors or your digital nomads, then maybe do something like that. Get a place with like 5, 6, 7, 8 rooms and just have guys kind of coming in and out, because it reminds me of being in college. It is kind of nice because I can get a bit introverted at times. I can get lost in my own little bubble, and then day in, day out, it's just me, myself, and I. And then, the girls are always coming in and out, but you need some bro energy too every now and then. So yeah, it is nice having a roommate again.
Absolutely. And it helps you grow too. Like there's greatness about living by yourself, right? You can learn so much about yourself, but the most intense growth you're going to go through is with other people, because they trigger all those things in yourself that maybe you were afraid to look at or you didn't know existed. Why?
Close the damn door. It'll take about a week or two.
I wasn't closing the fridge door, and I think I was, but I was slamming it hard, and then it would just bounce over.
Just spring back.
So I was closing it.
I walk out and the fridge is open. I'm like, bro, you can't let food spoil in Mexico. Like it all goes bad.
Maybe. We got it now. We're double checking, and with the dating too, it's really helped kind of. As well, just kind of see those parts of myself that I didn't want to see. Coming back to that kind of deep psychology, which is what I'm really passionate about, is it's like, okay, like I go on I saw 4 girls this weekend. It's like each one of those is going to bring something up about myself that I have been afraid to look at, and each one did. And I had to take that time afterwards, just kind of decompress and be like, okay, why did I behave this way? Why did I feel this way in this moment? How can I overcome this as fast as possible? And that's pretty much what I do. I date, and then I go through inner transformation throughout the week, and like let's read books and stuff. And
your girls are a reflection of you. And then once you start getting them in your frame and you start building that relationship, then they become an extension of you. And it's really cool because you'll start to have relationships with your girls where like they execute your will, or almost you'll hear things come out of their mouth and you're like, that's a me thought. That's something you can start to see yourself in them. So I always say they're simultaneously a reflection of you and an extension of you.
Absolutely. I did a little code approach today with a girl as I was walking home, and she had great energy, and there was something about her that I really vibed with. And I'm like, what's your sign? And she's like, it's called chick crack. So I always bring up astrology. They love that. She's like, oh, I'm Cancer. And I'm like,
always tell them you're compatible. If she says we're not compatible, I was like, yeah, but we fuck really good. That's always my line. And they're like, well, what are you? I'm like, Aries. I'm like, it's always going to be fire. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? And they always agree with you. It's funny.
Hell yeah. That fire, baby. I'm Cancer too. And I was like, yeah, I'm Cancer. And it's like, I can tell like you have a really good energy. And so it made you feel good that way. And I'm like, I did the opposite. I'm like, ooh, I don't think this is going to work out. And I like shook her hand and pretended to walk away. And then she loved that.
She's like, hey, no.
Come back. But I kind of point I was going to make, but slipped my mind. But yeah.
Here, we can clear up the comments real quick while that comes back.
Sure.
So going back to the car talk, I'm thinking of driving down there, bring my car. Just curious if it would be feasible. I'm in Houston. Realize too, if you're doing border stuff, and that's fine. Like when I was in San Diego, I'd bring my car down to Tijuana all the time, like just keep it there. But I always crossed it back to the U.S. If you bring it into the heart of the country, you have to nationalize the car down here, and it's a big pain in the ass process. So if it's some exotic car, some sports car, things are overpriced here. They have value-added taxes. If it's a newer car, you want to calculate those numbers and see. But if it's like a Nissan Versa from like 2010 and you're like, oh, it's paid for, it's a cash car, I'll bring it down there, sell it in the US and then buy it down here, because that whole nationalization process for the automobiles is a pain in the ass. I haven't done it myself, but I've had friends that have done it. Same as the back in the day when the immigration office I just renewed my residency. So last week, back and forth to all these meetings, and it can kill some time. And a lot of times it's just more worth it to sell your car at home, come down with cash, and then buy a car here. That's legalized nationally here.
That's huge.
See, Aaron, my shirts are getting too loose. That's the show game for me. Yeah, Aaron, you're on substantial weight loss too. So Yeah, guys, we're talking about bulking here, which is nice for me because I haven't done a bulk. I think when I was in my 20s, when I was going through my divorce, I went through a bulk and I got really, really big, and it was a dirty bulk too. But I was so stressed out. For me, it was just putting weight on the bar just to channel that negative, aggressive energy. I'm in a different place in my life now, but it's been almost 10 years for me to do a bulk, and I'm doing a real lean bulk, and I've segued it into more of a recomp now. But Aaron, you're on the fat loss journey, and I have a handful of guys I've been coaching through the fat loss journey. So I've lost at one point 100 pounds in about a year of my life. So I've got a few guys I'm coaching through that process that have lost like 60, 70, 80. And I think one guy's almost near 100 pounds now. So if you have like substantial weight loss to do, that's more my area of expertise. But that's where I started. And then over the years, I've kind of dialed it in like, okay, well, how do I walk around with a six pack near most of the year? There are times holidays are coming up. So usually I'll indulge a bit around Christmas, and then first week of January cut. And then April 1st to October 1st, I'm usually always shredded. So we're in they call it off season in the space right now. So
and
nice that's a great book. Yeah.
Quick thanks, man. Quick shout out to Aaron too. He's going to be on the podcast with us too next week to talk about food addiction. So stay tuned. We're going to have a deep dive into how to clean bulk basically and cut some pounds.
This one's funny. Super Saiyan, Joel.
Kamehameha.
Crush some tacos, dude. Tacos are so good for bulking, but you got to make sure, like, there's a few places around town. You know, if you're running really high carbs, you don't want to run that high of fat. So we have a few places. Use the flour tortillas. Like, don't put any butter or the grease on them or any of that stuff. But there's a local market here, so you can go to the butcher, get clean cuts of meat. They'll shave all the fat off of it, and then they'll grill it up for you, and they'll just put it on a warmed up flour tortilla, and we just crush those after the gym. So that works quite well. Damn it!
And they're so cheap. They're so cheap.
It's like $1.50 per taco. So you can throw 3, 4, 5 of those things down like nothing. And they're good portions too, because I weigh everything out. So 65 grams of meat per taco. Then do 5 of those. That's what, 300 and change grams, and like for a couple bucks, that's not bad. I had a buddy who used to say water seeks its level when it comes to dating women. That is absolutely true, I believe.
What does that mean exactly?
Water seeks its own level when it comes to dating women. In the early days of me getting into like kind of the crimson capsule type spaces, there was an article on one of I believe it was a Reddit forum back in the day before they banned it and censored it. But it said something like, it's like the cup theory. So like women are like water, they flow naturally. And then you have to be that vase, I'm thinking in Spanish, envase, but you have to be that encompassing container that really holds them in. So I like the water metaphors. If Spanish is really cool too, Joel, as you get into it, it's really kind of more grounded in like the natural elements, whereas English is not so much. So it's all about like flow states and water. It's a feminine, masculine language. So you'll start to understand how that works and how really they viewed the world at the time they were structuring that language. So yeah, I think that's a great metaphor.
Cool. Yeah, that's a beautiful metaphor. It's like, yeah, we are water, we are fire. And I'm just saying words right now, but yeah, dude, water. That's dope. All
right, so guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. If not, Joel, is there anything else you want to touch on, or we can start to transition it to bringing it home?
I think in the good old fashioned song, which we've been listening to some more of the 90s tunes, it's closing time, so we can start wrapping it up. I guess I'll just say my end. Yeah, appreciate anyone who's come in and everyone who's come in. And do you hear a siren right now?
Yep. Yeah, it's outside.
Okay. Yeah, you hear a lot of those in Mexico. Anything? How about you, Jared? Anything else that you wanted to touch on? Or
yeah, guys, you know where to find me. Instagram at Gringo Guides. That is my branded account. At some point, once I start getting a little bigger, I'm going to start doing more podcasts, going to more guys' channels, and starting to kind of break into my own space. So eventually I'll just bring that back to @Jaron Scott. But for now, I've got Joel in Mexico with me. We're touching on the broad type topics. Got the dating course coming out. Definitely DM me on Instagram in regards to that. Or if you need anything else, any coaching services, Joel's talking about putting together some joint offers. So if you have like substantial weight loss, if you're dealing with any sort of addictions, then that definitely can help too. Whereas I can help you on the fitness side, Spanish side, moving abroad side, and any of the online dating or just dating in general side. So definitely a lot of opportunity for cross promotion and for overlap. And then I didn't even touch on this, but Joel, Mr. Sobriety Coach, just by virtue of you being here, I haven't smoked weed for the entire month of November. I think I'm going day 17 or something like that. Or what?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm on day
Very cool.
17. So yeah, and it's funny. The first week, it's like, because I'd done it every day for like 3 years, starting in COVID. But prior to that, I hadn't done it in 15 years. So I used to work as a
Mm.
government defense contractor, and you can't do that. Although there's a couple of times I did it, and I think they caught me. Bro, we know you smoked weed in Panama. I was like, I was on an island with the fucking Cuna tribal people. How did you know? Like, like it was like me and the chief and like a couple of his kids. Like how'd you know? So you're like, you can't do that when you work in defense. But so I started doing that habitually during COVID, just because I didn't have much going on in my life. So I'm not saying I'm going to put it down entirely, but I wanted to go through that detox process. I've done it a couple of times over the years. It's actually not really hard for me to do that once you build that discipline muscle. But with Joel being the sobriety coach, it's like, all right, I'm kind of interested, like he's learning from me, and I'm kind of interested in to figure that out too. And I'm naturally more on the hyper energetic side, hyperactive side. So I'm like, well, I need to make some forward moving progress fast in my life. So I'd like to have that mental clarity and that ADHD energy back. And oh boy, it's back. It's coming back. But but it's also kind of fun too.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
I find absolutely, I'm proud of you. And I find a lot of people that quit marijuana or have marijuana maybe you don't even say problems, but have a habitual use with it, often have that ADHD personality. I know I did for sure. And I've really
tones
had
me
to,
down. Yeah, it just
yep.
brings you in.
And here's the magic of it, and this is what I really coach people on, is like, if you can quit weed and get through that initial period, you get to a point where that becomes an absolute superpower. That's where you get Super Saiyan level, where you can have that energy be fully in your favor all the time, for every decision you make is absolutely to your highest good. And that's not an exaggeration, that's the honest truth. And so I'm really excited to see how you continue to evolve and transform without weed, for sure. And I know one of the guys I'm coaching, his goal is to start the new year without weed. So I don't know if that's like, a goal maybe that you would have or something like that, but I know there's a real powerful energy. Every new year, I start off with an intention of something I have to get rid of my life. And it's always worked because you just stick with it. And then you can say, I went the full year off X, Y, or Z, off porn or whatever the substances or behavior.
I think I'll put it in the same category as alcohol. Years ago, I caught myself, going through a really rough patch in my life, drinking a little too much habitually every night just to fall asleep. And eventually I was like, and actually it was vanity. It was when I started getting more into the gym. Like I just replaced one addiction with the other. So it's like, I don't really want to drink that much anymore. I was going to therapy at the time. So we worked on renegotiating my relationship with certain substances and thought patterns and whatever. It's just your traditional cognitive behavioral therapy. But for alcohol, like I went out on Sunday, had some drinks. I threw back quite a few beers, but I think it was like 4 or 5 beers over the course of like 8 hours. So it's really just having a good conversation. And I'm trying to work more on my social game too. So Mexicans like to drink a lot. They're not really big pot smokers here. It's still kind of taboo. And the ones that do it, they're more bohemian, creative types, more into the arts, which I like those types of people, but most people prefer to drink here. So I'm like, all right, I don't need to completely quit drinking. I just need to have a healthy relationship with alcohol. So there's no alcohol here in the house. I don't drink before I go to bed. I don't drink by myself. But if someone invites me out for a cocktail, I'll go. I'll do it. So same thing. Like if I'm backpacking somewhere, if I'm in like Guatemala and there's like a hippie drum circle, like, hey, bro, you play guitar and sing? Like, and I take a blip off a spliff. I don't mind doing that. But for me, like, okay, it's 8 o'clock, like time to go through like the routine, roll it and then get it out and then put on a certain song. And then like you run through a sequence too. I talk about dating sequences, but you run through your routine to do it, like just to go to bed. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. So it's kind of the same thing I did with alcohol. If it presents itself, I'm like, yeah, why not? I've got an afternoon to kill and I've worked real hard and, there's good company here, good vibes. Another rule I have is I don't drink if I'm like in a negative state, because then that trains your brain to reward that. You don't want to do that. If I'm in a positive state, like, oh yeah, we'll just go ahead and drink. So I'm going to make the same rules that I have for alcoholic marijuana. And that's worked well for me.
Yeah, you are definitely not alcoholic. Proud to report that, guys. Jurgen is not an alcoholic. But
I can throw them back when I do, and I have a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think that's I love what you said, that you're replacing one thing for another, and that's okay, especially when you're quitting an addiction. Like, you have to do it. You can't just go full cold turkey on 17 things that are, bad habits in your life. Yeah, like you pick one up like over the other. And I like what you said about the ritual, right? So at night, you have that ritual, you're going to roll the joint or put the weed in the pipe or whatever, and then you put the music on. Like, imagine just, and this is not for you specifically, but when people do have addiction problems, like, you can do that with like other like healthy things. Like instead of rolling the joint, right, you take a bath or something, or you eat a really healthy meal. Like you get in a really healthy cycle, like a habitual cycle that's
You
going to
rewire your
benefit you.
reward centers in the brain, I think, is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
Yes, yep. Your dopamine balances out too, and
Yeah.
neuroepinephrine, serotonin. So the things that give you the high, the things that don't give you the high when you're high start to give you a high. So like reading a book, maybe listening to a song, talking with a friend, right? We were up to like 2 o'clock the other night just talking, and it was awesome. Right? We didn't need to smoke weed or anything. We were just having a good time.
And I commented to you too, like getting into smoking weed, because at first it started out, COVID happened, like we got locked down. We were paid by our government in the U.S. to not work, and they closed our beaches in California. So like I all of a sudden had all this time on my hands. Like, what do I do with this? I did get back into music. I'm really grateful for that. Did a lot of introspective stuff. Started journaling again. Started writing. Launched my channel. So I got to embark upon a lot of creative pursuits there. But I think the drug did become habitual. But I noticed when I was getting into it, like that because I didn't smoke it in a long time at that point, it felt really good when you started that ritual. Sun's going down, music's going on. I've got my meat season. I'm going to go out and grill. Like I'd watch the sunset in San Diego, smoke, and then grill, and then go home and eat and do whatever, my one meal a day. But you create that ritual, but everything was heightened. Everything smelled better, and it tasted better, and sex was a lot better. And like you felt that energy, but then you don't realize it kind of creeps up onto you. It got to the point where, like you said, your dopamine response is stunted to where you don't have those experiences anymore. Your senses aren't heightened. And so I noticed coming off of it, you go through that again. You're like, oh, my sense of smell is better. Like I can breathe better. My sight's better. Like my focus is, my focus is better. And then it got to the point where, like the active intimacy in the bedroom is better, because you get to the point where in your head, you start to become desensitized to all this stuff. Because I think you're always blasting your brain with these artificial dopamine depleting stimuli to where you need to kind of give it a break. So coming off of it, like doing more of the detox process. And again, for me, like when I got in the gym years ago, first thing I did is develop the discipline muscle. So it's not hard for me to say like, oh, I just don't want to do that anymore, and then just don't do it. But you do notice the differences. When I was coming back off of it, it was almost the same process as when I was coming into it. Like, ooh, colors are brighter and sounds are crisper, and I have a broader dynamic range in terms of my musical ear training goes. But at some point, that all became stunted with the habitual use. Coming off of it, that all starts coming back.
Oh, dude, yes. You get so much of who you are returning, and passion returns. I love that. All the above, man. And I'll be a little honest, I've been falling back into one of my addictions, which is watching a movie in the evening. And I noticed like the days are a little like I'm a little less motivated to go cold approach. I'm a little less excited when I'm talking to a girl. And I know that's a direct correlation to watching movies. It's like,
although we've been working hard too lately. So yeah, I've noticed that you're watching more movies, but like, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So I've caught myself doing that too. Watching the news on YouTube. I'm like, well, this just pisses me off. I don't want to do that anymore. Or watching kind of the manosphere type stuff. I'm like, well, I don't really want to put these ideas in my head. I kind of want to allow space for new ideas to come in my head. But at the end of the day, when you're exhausted, and like I'm doing the one meal a day thing now. So it takes me a while to eat. Like, yeah, I don't mind putting something on TV, just to like your shutdown sequence is what I used to call it before you go to bed. Because otherwise, like with the way our brains are wired, like, dude, I'll just stay on and I'll go days without sleeping. Some might call that mania, but that's my natural energy. I've been like that since I was a kid. So I need to have that shutdown sequence, which is also why I like the one meal a day, because you eat all of your calories in one sitting, and then like you just kind of fall asleep.
Yeah, you're ready to pass out. Yeah. So yeah, definitely, it's everyone's a little bit different for sure.
Figure yourself out.
You figure yourself out. Yeah, things that Jaren can do, I can't do. Things I can't do, or I can do, Jaren can't do, and it's just it's you got to compare with yourself at the end of the day of who you were yesterday. So yeah, for myself, you can find me on Sobriety University, the YouTube channel. Talk a lot about marijuana addiction, but what I found is most things I talk about that pertain to one addiction pertain to every single addiction. And if you can master one, you can master them all, because it's the same process. It's just a different substance. You're gonna have a little bit of a different, process to work through in quitting it. Different memories come up. I'll say, like with the TV one, for me, that was the reason why it's so strong for me, and I've had to let it go, is because as a kid, my parents weren't emotionally available to spend time with me. So the TV was my like saving grace. It was my parent. It was my It
Millennials,
gave
we
me
are raised by the TV. The new kids are raised by their cell phones. So that's quite
yeah,
nice.
what's worse, right?
Yeah.
And then the
What?
boomers were raised by their mean parents, so it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe,
Oh,
maybe they
millennials are a
didn't really
terrible
mess with that.
generation. I can't wait to see what the new ones do. No, whew,
They,
that'll
they
be.
they always do better than we think, though. Like,
That's true.
right? You know what I mean?
Throughout human history, they always say that. Oh, this generation, but like they've
Yeah,
been like read any like ancient text. They've been saying that forever.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for TV, it's like it's my love, for sure. And I think you sometimes you gotta let go of what you love. But let's read it. Marijuana wasn't my kryptonite, but earlier it was good, and video games. Now I read and work out. Yeah,
Yep.
dude, video games are
Replace one addiction for the other. I was never addicted to video games, but I can see why guys get into that. It's an escape.
it's an escape. Yep, and
Like,
it's one that
on Sunday, I went out and had some beers. I was actually looking forward to it coming Sunday morning. Woke up. It was a holiday weekend in the U.S., so like I did have some nostalgia. Like it'd be nice to be with my family, and it would be nice. I want to go out and go for a drive. I wish I still lived in San Diego on the beach, but I'm intentionally in this chapter of my life taking my life in a new direction. So you just have to deal with that. But I wanted a little reminder of kind of the U.S. So like, you know what? I'll just go watch football and then eat wings and drink beer. I don't ever do that, but went out on Sunday, brought one of my girls with me. The game was over pretty quick, and then we had a really good conversation going. It's like, yeah, just get another round of beers, and then we weren't even focused on the drinks. It was just like kept the conversation going. Before we knew it, we had closed down the bar. So I realized I intentionally did that as an escape, and it ended up being an escape. And then on Monday, this is what's key. On Monday, I'm like, oh, time to get back to work. Like you can't be doing that every day. Time to hit the ground running again.
yeah.
So as long as you can snap back.
That's the key. It's like a refeed day almost. And Aaron, I love that you bring up the video games. We'll have to do a podcast on video games addiction because I was a huge video gamer and it was never satisfying, dude. Like it was so frustrating. I think it taught me how to problem solve and be patient with difficult things, maybe. But the game ends and you're like, now I'm back to reality. There's no, you didn't
if you
learn
like video
anything.
games, play the game. Dating
Right.
course at
Game
Gringo
of
Guys.
life,
Yeah,
dude.
exactly. Yeah,
Video
dude, the game is so fun. Right? Like I've mentioned this to you. Like I find that I'm getting into that addiction. Like today, I was pretty productive, got a lot of stuff done, didn't even think about gaming, but all of a sudden, ding, messages start coming in. You're like, oh, there's a new chick hitting me up. Like, no, I've got other things to focus on. So you have to deal with that too, because you'll get good at the game, and then again, your brain rewards you for that. So you get more dopamine hits the more you do it. But yeah, I was never really into video games too much, thank God. Although one of the initial videos on my channel, it's like the third or fourth video I did when I launched it years ago. It was called Video Games Are a Waste of Time. I think that's one of my top performing videos. So you should definitely head into that content, because you get a bunch of gamers like, no, they're not. Like, yeah, bro, yeah, they are. And then you get that engagement.
Right. This constant dopamine blast. And the thing with video games is they create them so well to keep you hooked because they give you little rewards. They give you, my buddy spent so much money on 2K, like actual money. And now you actually have to spend money within the game. Like he bought all these packs to get a better team, and he gets the best team. He had like LeBron, Curry, KD. And then he's just like, yeah, this is stupid. What did I just do for the last 7 months? Literally wasted months playing this and buying stuff and working to pay for these little cards that you get in that purchases. And it's like, it's crazy. Now I will say, I know I'm coming down on video games pretty hard. If some people can treat them like how Jaron treats his alcohol, where he does it once a week for a couple hours and it's a fun release and escape, and he goes right back to business. So video games in itself aren't evil. It's the relationship with X, Y, or Z substance that causes the issues. So like marijuana isn't evil, porn isn't evil. It's just the relationship with it and then the consequences. And I always say, like, learn the consequences, because you can have the best intentions, but you're always going to have the consequences that come with X, Y, or Z behavior.
I think that's good. It's like any relationship. There's healthy relationships and toxic relationships. So toxic relationship is you're putting more into it than you're getting out of it. And it might start off what you feel is healthy. Like, oh, it's a nice little escape. Oh, weed kind of chills me out. Oh, makes me better at music. But then you realize, like, okay, I'm smoking weed like every day, all day long. And you're still functional. Like there's a year, a couple of years ago, I did really well financially. You're still functional, but then you realize, like, how well could I? It's like when you have a bad girlfriend. The old ball and chain. Oh, I got the wife at home. Like, oh, fucking nagging or whatever. Oh, but you're still getting by. Like, but how well could you be doing if you just cut that part of your life entirely out, or again, renegotiate that relationship rather than it taken away from you if it was actively supporting you? And a lot of times, if you're, again, like going back to any habitual use of anything, if you're giving more to it than you're getting out of it, then maybe it's time to start taking a step back. And then in terms of replacing one addiction with another, I think we have a solution for you. Men of Now community. I know I've been in a lot of these private groups, and for me, like, there's always that time of week where, I get to go look at the community tab. We get to do a webinar. We get to do a workshop. We get to get on a call. We get to get on a stream. This stream's been public, but we're going to do more streams behind the paywall, because you've heard me ask Joel a couple of times, like, how much information can we divulge here? There's not a lot you can say publicly on YouTube, but behind the paywall on our own domain, you certainly can. So get into the Men of Now community. It's monthly recurring, so we have a lower price point for you guys at $75 a month at time of broadcast. That will go up as the group grows, but you can also get in there and sell your own memberships. We have an aggressive commission program, affiliate program. I have a dating course coming out very soon, so I will do a stream. It looks like tomorrow night on that. Rally the troops, let guys know. You do get discounts on any coaching services, courses, any premium products of any of the members within the group. If you want to be a coach, you want to be a content creator, you want to do whatever it is you want to do business-wise, be a digital nomad, come down to Mexico and just crush puss, like whatever you want to do, get in the group and we'll help you out with that. So it's a band of brothers. We're looking to help build each other's lifestyles to our own design or to our own desire. So for me, I like living abroad. I like doing that. I want to make more money on this stuff. I want to help more guys out, expand my reach. So we have digital collaborators, we have business owners, we have creators, we have investors, we have a network of guys that really are just going there to give. Again, it's a lower price point, $75 a month. Bring 2 friends with you, and guess what? Your community membership is paid for. And that's monthly recurring. If you decide that you want to sell more, then guess what? Now you can actually make money in the group. And again, I'm going to do the details on the affiliate program tomorrow for my course. But for younger guys watching, I've had a lot of you, my coaching clients, you reach out, hey, I'm a 20-year-old kid, live in Oregon, cutting down trees, making $15 an hour. I want to go live abroad. What do I do? Well, you have to source income on the internet. How do you do that? This is not the only way to do it, but this is a great place to start doing it. And guess what? All the guys in there are trying to do the same thing. So that's how you build each other up. So Men of Now community, $75 monthly recurring. Get in now before the price goes up, probably around the new year at some point. And my course will officially launch next week. So be on the lookout for that. For my channel, if you're watching the YouTube on my channel, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and ring the notification bell. Go to your settings on YouTube, enable all notifications. Do the same for Joel's channel. If you're watching me on Joel's channel and you want to subscribe to my channel, go to Instagram at Gringo Guides. There's a link there, and then I would love to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great plug. Yeah. Men and Now community, hop in. It's really exciting. It's a lot of people looking to level up and be better men, better human beings. We're not in the whole like alpha beta kind of mindset. It's just, we're all equals. We are equals. We're equal men coming together with different assets that we can help each other with. And so, yeah, if you want to learn how to do coaching, create your own online business, I make my money through coaching online, and it's fantastic. Like, you don't need a lot to live abroad, which is what is also awesome. The thing with the US is you get trapped because you have to make so much money to afford the high income lifestyle. And then it's so money focused. And there's obviously great parts about the US. I'm guessing 3 people just dropped off. So maybe there's some American guys. Screw this guy. America's
America.
America. Hey, America's great, beautiful nature. The food's really good. I'll give it that. Really healthy food. But you can definitely learn how to make money online for sure. And we're happy to help teach you how to do that. In terms of the course, guys, it's gonna be a great course. I got to go through it. It helped me tons. The key was to put in what Jaron was teaching me immediately, and that's kind of what any coaching service, as long as you put in the work, you're gonna get the results.
It's a framework. Yeah, it's a whole new framework. Of how to look at dating, of how to mentally remap out that process. And there are some tough spots. You're gonna have to identify some core beliefs and then pull them to the surface, maybe spit them out, put them back in, chew on them, and decide if you want to swallow it again or completely reject wholesale. I don't advise guys do this. Don't wholesale reject your belief system. That's how cults happen. But it's an entire framework. So take bits and pieces of it and then make it your own. And again, we're focused on creating your own personalized blueprint. Your dating strategy will not look exactly the same as mine, but I lay out the basic foundation, why I go about it the way I go about it, and then considerations for different guys in different facets of their life and with different dating markets and different goals in terms of the relationship vertical of their lives. So very comprehensive. If you've noticed, I can get wordy sometimes. So it's extremely comprehensive, and I still don't feel like it's enough. I will be adding to it. You also get daily Q&A support for 2 weeks when the course officially opens, and there's one that corresponds with each module. So you have a couple hours of one-on-one time with me, and guess what? I will take those recordings, I will add it to the course, and then the course just becomes better the more that guys go through it and the more data points we have.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a framework. And there's stuff that I took from the course and things I left behind that weren't going to work for me, or that maybe just didn't.
Fast to mouth.
I'm bass to mouth, and bro,
yeah.
That's a great tip.
Shower first. There's a module on that. Sexual
Yes.
hygiene. Yep.
Kinky game, fast to mouth. It's all you need. There's your preview, guys. In terms of for my own stuff, yeah, you can come on Sobriety University, talk about the addiction content. I do one-on-one coaching. So if you have an addiction, a bad habit that you want to get rid of, and you're struggling to, maybe you've tried on your own, and you just want to, you see the consequences, and you see how, like Jaron said, maybe your life isn't imploding, but your life could be way better, and you know that. Yeah. I'm here to help you and walk you through that process, help you really reframe your mindset, because that's what I find with a lot of people I coach, that once they start to see that their life is worth way more than what they're getting from the addiction, then the addiction or the substance starts to lose its, like, it's like, okay, well, this wasn't as great as I thought it was, because I'm seeing all these other great things starting to happen, and I have this big vision for my life. So really working on finding your purpose, and then practical things as well, like meditation, journaling, eating well, exercise. And through your connection with me, you can connect with guys like Jaron, you can connect with guys like Aaron, who's losing a ton of weight, D'Angelo, awesome guys within the community also as well, that are here to help you and help you grow. So yeah, you can book a call with me. It's only, I think, $25 for half hour, and then we can just kind of get to know each other. If you want to start on the program immediately, then there's links for that too. It'll be down below on my website. And the way I like to look at this too, and I invite people that are thinking about doing coaching or joining a community or purchasing a course, is to see it as an investment. What are you going to get back from doing this? And the big question I like to ask is, okay, what are you spending with the old belief, or what is it costing you to continue holding on to the beliefs, behaviors, actions that you do have? That's the first question. Usually, it's like, okay, maybe like a couple $100 a month, $1,000, whatever. And then it's like, okay, what could you be making and adding to your life if you didn't have these actions, thoughts, or behaviors? And then they always smile. They go, because they're like, oh yeah, I could be making a lot. I could be.
You made this point to me too. You get to the point where, like, okay, maybe you feel a little down. And the substance makes you feel up here. But eventually, even with the substance, you get to the point. Same thing happened to me with alcohol, where I felt so shitty at that phase of my life, where it just made things. It didn't make me feel good. It just made me not feel bad. But that first pop of the top, your brain already starts to light up before it even touches your lips. That first drink, my body's like, oh, it's on, we're going. But despite the habitual use of alcohol, my life still got to the point where all of a sudden it's like, I feel better not doing this. And then now, especially like in the gym aspect, where I feel pretty crappy. Like, I don't get hungover or anything. It's my metabolism, I take care of myself. So your body's kind of like, okay, that was a nice escape. Like, we're a little dehydrated. No, you didn't really sleep that well. You're a little groggy. Your kind of mental clarity's off, but let's get back to baseline. Baseline's healthy. So you get to the point where you kind of outgrow the substance, is what I've noticed. And I think you made that point to me, and I think that's a very valid point.
That's a great point. Yes, you mature, you grow up, and as spiritual human beings, we're meant to, transcend the path. Like we're always growing. Consciousness is always growing, whether you believe in that or not. And I'm sure religion, right? God wants you to grow and be stronger and be a better person. I'm sure Hinduism, Buddhism, right? They say to reach enlightenment, you can't be using substances. I'm not trying to reach enlightenment.
If you're not growing, you're dying, and our physical body's already decaying. Yeah, exactly.
That's what Tony Robbins says, which a couple
guys.
I
didn't even know that. Yeah, I've always said that.
Yeah, that's the same. And yeah, I don't try to get enlightened anymore. Like, yeah, not happening. If it does, great. But really, an enlightenment isn't, you just stop suffering. So you still have bad things happen to you. You still have challenges. You still have pain, but it's just you don't suffer over it anymore. And so, anyway, we could do a whole talk on Buddhism, but the point is that, yeah, I lost my point. I started thinking about Buddhism, but yeah, you outgrow the substance, right? And same with like, how do I say this? I've been to a lot of recovery support groups, and it's hard to see when you have a 50, 60, 70-year-old who hasn't worked on this stuff, who hasn't made those tough decisions to change their life. And they're looking, they're the next 30 years of their existence, 20 years, maybe, probably less if they've been drinking and stuff, is going to be just kind of rework, like going through their past and trying to find some peace before before they die. And that's a tough truth. And
So it's a
every time
life wasted, which is
it's a
really
life
sad.
wasted. Yeah. And what's great is, you watching this, there's always an opportunity to get better and change your life. Even for the people I just talked about that are 70 years old and having to, like, they're still going to find peace in their life if they do the work. So yeah, coming full circle here. Definitely, if that's something that could be of service to you, and that you think that could change your life, I invite you to book a call down below. Same with Jaron. He has coaching on fitness, he has coaching on dating, and he can definitely help you out in that regard. I'll say, as a client,
I'm working on putting together some more package offers too. So like,
Yep.
Flat fee, ongoing support, an hour a week with me, ongoing tech support or whatever. Cause I've coached a couple guys, especially through like substantial weight loss, like guys that have 100 pounds to lose and they're well on their way to do it. In fact, one of our buddies in the group, I talked to him last night for a few hours. Like, dude, you look like a completely different person. He's almost at my level. And a year ago, he was obese. I'm like, whoa. He texted me the other day, bro, I have abs. I'm like, I know, right? Like, how fucking cool is that? So I really get a lot out of helping you guys too. And then again, if you don't really know where to start, there's a lot of coaches in the community. We all have our areas of specialty. So join the Minna now and you have access to it. You get discounted coaching rates. We have regular recurring workshops and group sessions, Q&A sessions. I'm doing a course launch, a little kickoff tomorrow night. So get in there. And then we have just every now and then we'll do live stream podcasts behind the paywall. Like, hey, this is a topic we should talk about, like sexual hygiene. You can't talk about that publicly. Like the guys really want to get into the details there. So we do that behind the paywall also. So get in the group, $75 a month, especially if you're one of Joel's like substance guys. I'm sure you've spent $75 in dumber places before. And then if you don't like it, get in there. It's monthly recurring. So if you don't like it in your first 30 days, pop out of there and just lock in the rate.
Yep. Absolutely. You can come back anytime when you're ready, or you have something more to offer, or want that advice. Because sometimes, just like Jaron said, like, sometimes you're not ready for certain pieces of information. A year ago, when I booked Jaron for coaching, I was not ready to hear about sexual hygiene and bass to mouth. Yep. And as a client of Jaron's, technically, which is how we met, I only had to book him for one call because he gave me all I need. And I'm living with him, so I'm basically getting amazing one-on-one coaching. It's great, man. Like he'll help you, walk you through so many different things. And just really help kind of, work that mindset, see that it's okay to have desires and be a sexual. I think that's maybe what you've taught me the most, is that it's okay to just do this stuff. It's like, it's not like taboo or evil or against it's sinning or anything.
Girls like it when you open that side of them up too. Like they have the fantasies, they have the freak fetishes, and most guys are like, oh, you're a 304. Oh, you're not a traditional woman. Guess what? They close that down and they come to guys like me to fulfill that part of their psyche. So be the guy, be the guy who fucks is what I always say.
It's a service. You're being of service to the women and to the and that's what one of the guys in the community as well, his name's Ricky, he's helped Jaron and I see that it's selfish not to live your best life, because you're going to be happier, you're going to help other people be happier,
those around you
add more value to those around you will be happier, your family will be happier, the people that are going to come after you are going to be happier, and then at the most important, let's be selfish, you're going to be happier. And at the end of the day, we're all sovereign individuals, and we have to find a way to be as happy as we can and in this very short life. And that got deeper real quick.
We can go on this for hours, but guys, join us in the group, get behind the paywall, reach out to Joel, subscribe to his channel, like, comment, share, ring the notification bell, enable notifications, do the same for me. And then you guys know where to find us. So if you want to keep it going, if you need anything at all, feel free to reach out. We are accessible, we are available, and we're here to help. So that being said, we'll go ahead and bring it on home. And I want to thank you all for stopping by. And until next time, I shall bid you all farewell.
Adieu. Adios. Peace.